Hey everyone, and a huge welcome back to English Active Listening. I'm Alyssa, and today we're really going to dive deep into something that I know many of you have been asking about. And it's honestly something that can totally change the game for your English speaking. How to think faster and talk smarter. It's not just about getting your vocabulary and grammar right, it's about mastering the art of actually communicating confidently and with that natural flow that just makes you sound like a pro. These are skills that are absolutely gold in today's fast-paced world. Whether you're aiming to nail a job interview, hold your own in a team meeting, or just have a really great chat with friends and new acquaintances. Have you ever found yourself in that all too familiar spot where you totally knew the answer? It was right there in your head, but the words just wouldn't come out? Or maybe your thoughts were crystal clear when you were thinking them, but they somehow got all tangled up on the way to your mouth? If that sounds like you, then let me tell you, you are absolutely not alone. This is a really common head-scratcher for so many English learners. And honestly, even native speakers can get tongue-tied when they're under pressure. But here's the really good news. Getting good at talking on the spot is totally a skill. And just like learning to ride a bike or play an instrument, it's something you can learn, you can practice, and you can truly master. Today, we're going to break down some of those seemingly complex communication challenges into really actionable techniques that will power you up to speak with incredible clarity, unwavering confidence, and that lovely, natural flow. So get ready to truly transform how you speak English. It's going to be a fun journey. Before we jump headfirst into the talking smart part, let's just take a quick moment to touch on that thinking fast bit. You see, a huge part of being a quick thinker, believe it or not, is being an active listener. I mean, you can't really cook up a smart, relevant response if you haven't fully gotten your head around the question or the whole situation, can you? It sounds kind of obvious when I say it, right? But in the heat of the moment, when you're in the thick of a conversation, it's incredibly easy to get caught up in just planning out what you're going to say next, instead of truly giving your full attention to the other person. So when someone is speaking, really try to take in their words. Don't just sit there waiting for your turn. Try to figure out what they truly mean, what they're trying to get across. And also, pay attention to their nonverbal cues, their body language, the tone of their voice. These things can add so many layers of meaning. They tell you a lot more than just the words themselves. And beyond just listening, observing how other people communicate is super important. Watch closely how those really effective communicators respond. How do they handle tricky questions? How do they lay out their points? Just watch them and learn. This kind of passive learning, even when you're not speaking, really gets your brain ready for when it's your turn to jump into the conversation. It's like warming up before a run. It primes you for action. All right, let's jump straight into our first go-to technique for talking smart. And this one is an absolute gem for getting your answers structured quickly and clearly, especially in those more professional settings like job interviews, giving presentations, or even just serious discussions. It's called the PrEP method, and it gives you a simple, really easy to remember framework that makes sure what you're saying is clear, super logical, and truly hits home. So, PrEP is an acronym, and it stands for point, reason, example, and then back to point again. First, the P is for point. This is where you get straight to it. Your main idea, your core argument, or simply your opinion. You want to be direct and super clear here. Just cut to the chase about what you want to communicate. Think of it like your headline or your main argument, the absolute core of what you're trying to say. Then, the R is for reason. After you've made your point, you really need to explain why you think that. This is where you provide the underlying reasons, the logic, or what caused you to think that particular way. This step truly adds weight and depth to what you're saying, making it much more convincing. Next up, the E is for example, and this part is absolutely crucial for making your ideas concrete and easy to connect with. An example provides solid evidence. It could be a short story, a statistic, or just a specific time when something happened that really shows your reason and backs up your main point. Examples make what you're saying memorable and so much easier to grasp. And finally, the last P is for point again, where you circle back to your original point, maybe saying it a bit differently or just summarizing why it's so important. This really wraps things up nicely and makes your message stick in the listener's mind, leaving a strong impression. Let's walk through a few different situations to see the prep method in action. Imagine you're in a job interview and you're asked, "Why are you interested in this position?" Using prep, you might say, "My point is, I'm super keen on this position because it really lines up perfectly with my career goals and what I'm good at. The reason is, specifically, I'm looking for a role where I can truly put my project management experience to good use and really chip in with innovative solutions in a fast-moving team environment." For an example, in my last role at XYZ Corp, I actually headed up a cross-functional team that delivered the Alpha project 3 weeks early, which truly boosted our operational efficiency. So my concluding point is, I genuinely believe my skills and my drive make me a perfect fit for this particular role and for what your company is trying to achieve. See how that just flows? It's structured, convincing, and so easy to follow. Or let's try a more casual situation. Say a friend asks you, "Do you think reading physical books is better than ebooks?" Using prep, you could respond, "My point is, absolutely. I generally lean towards reading physical books over ebooks. The reason is, for me, that hands-on feel and not having digital distractions just makes it a way more engaging and focused activity. For example, when I'm holding a real book, I can highlight, scribble notes in the margins, and there's zero temptation to check my phone or browse the internet. I find I really take in the information much better that way." So my final point is, if I'm looking for a truly immersive reading experience, physical books are definitely my jam. The prep method isn't just for formal stuff. It totally helps you get any opinion across clearly. Start using it in your daily chats. You'll find it becomes second nature before you know it. Our second must-have technique is bridging and pivoting. This is a super powerful strategy for when you're facing those tricky questions, or questions you might not have the exact answer to, or simply when you just want to gently guide the conversation towards something you feel more confident about and where you can add more value. Let's break them down. Bridging means you acknowledge the question they asked, perhaps just for a second, and then you build a smooth, logical connection to a different topic, usually one that's broader or where you're more comfortable. You're literally building a bridge from their question to the point you want to talk about. It's about showing them you heard their question, but then you're gently steering the ship in a direction that plays to your strengths. Then comes pivoting. This is the actual move where you shift the focus of the conversation. After you've built that bridge, you pivot to talk about the area you know more about or where you've got a better answer ready. It's a smart play to take back control of the narrative and really showcase your strengths without looking like you're trying to avoid the question entirely. Let's check out some real-life examples. Imagine you're asked, what's the precise market share of Widget Co. in Southeast Asia in Q2 2025? And you just don't have that number right there in front of you. You could bridge and pivot by saying, that's a super specific data point, and while I don't have the exact Q2 2025 figures for Widget Co. As Southeast Asian market share right at my fingertips, what I can tell you is that our overall analysis points to a pretty significant growth trend in that region for comparable tech companies. For instance, we've seen a general uptick of X% in that market over the last year, and it's been driven by... See how you didn't just say, I don't know? You acknowledged the question and then smoothly moved on to what you do know, giving some valuable context instead. Here's another one. Maybe in a discussion about a past project that had some bumps in the road, you're asked, what was the biggest failure of your last team project? This is a classic interview question that's designed to see how you handle setbacks. Instead of just dwelling on failure, you can pivot to learning or improvement. You might say, that's a great question, and it's true that every project has areas where you can always do better. While I wouldn't call anything a complete failure, a key takeaway from our last project was really understanding how absolutely crucial early communication with everyone involved is. We initially ran into delays because we didn't get Department X on board soon enough in the planning phase. From that experience, we immediately put in place a new protocol for pre-project consultations, which has now proven super effective at preventing similar issues down the line. Here, you acknowledged the idea of failure or room for improvement, but quickly spun it around to learning and proactive solutions, turning a potential negative into a real positive. Or imagine you're at a networking event and someone asks about a very niche thing in your industry that you're not an expert in, like, what's your take on the latest breakthroughs in quantum cryptography for blockchain? You could say, that's a fascinating and really specialized area. And while I don't keep up with the quantum cryptography space day to day, I'm particularly interested in and have been diving deep into the broader implications of blockchain technology for supply chain transparency. For example, I recently worked on a project where we used blockchain to... You acknowledge their topic, you show you respect it, but then you bring it back to where you really shine. The trick with bridging and pivoting is to make it sound natural and not forced. You're not dodging the question. You're simply optimizing your response to provide the most relevant and valuable information you can. It truly shows you're a quick thinker and a smart communicator. Now, let's talk about a technique that often feels a bit backward, especially when you're trying so hard to think fast and talk smart. It's the power of pausing. When we're feeling that pressure to answer right away, our brain can just freeze up. But a short, really deliberate pause, even just 1 or 2 seconds, can actually give your brain that much needed moment to get your thoughts in order, find the right words, and, surprisingly, even calm your nerves. Plus, it makes you sound way more thoughtful and incredibly in control. So, why is pausing such a big deal? Well, for one, it actually buys you time. Even a tiny 1 to 2 second pause gives your brain that crucial moment to process the question, pull up the right vocabulary, and then put together a truly coherent thought. It literally lets you shift gears from just reacting to really thinking things through. Secondly, it drastically cuts down on filler words. When you're not scrambling to fill the silence, you're way less likely to rely on those ums, uhs, likes, or you knows. This instantly makes your speech sound much more polished and professional. Thirdly, it makes you sound so much more thoughtful and confident. Someone who pauses briefly before speaking often comes across as composed, articulate, and someone who really thinks about their words carefully. It just lends you authority and a sense of gravitas, rather than making you seem hesitant. And finally, it actually highlights your points. A pause just before or after a really important statement can truly draw the listener's attention to what you're about to say or what you just said, giving it more weight and making it stick in their minds. Let me give you an example. Compare these two ways of answering the question. What do you see as your greatest strength? In the first version, without a pause, you might hear, I think my greatest strength is, my ability to, work really well in a team. Now, listen to the second version with an intentional pause. My greatest strength is undoubtedly my collaborative spirit and my knack for building strong team dynamics. See the night and day difference? The second version sounds so much more confident, clearer, and truly professional, simply by adding that short, deliberate pause. It totally changes a hesitant answer into a truly thoughtful one. So, how can you get better at intentional pausing? Well, first, don't fear the quiet. Don't be scared of a second or two of silence. It's not awkward. In fact, it's impactful. Try to consciously take a breath when someone asks you a question. That small, quiet breath naturally creates that mini pause for you. You can also look thoughtful. Combine the pause with a brief, thoughtful gaze, maybe looking slightly up or to the side, as if you're accessing information. This nonverbal cue signals that you're thinking, not struggling. And most importantly, practice in low-stakes conversations. Start adding these pauses into your everyday chats with friends or family. It will feel more natural over time, I promise. Our fourth essential technique is all about making your speech flow really well and sound super clear. It's using connecting phrases and signposting. English speakers, you'll notice, use tons of specific little phrases to link ideas, introduce new points, disagree politely, or summarize what they're saying. Using these makes you sound so much more natural and truly helps your listener follow your train of thought without getting lost or confused. Think of these phrases as the road signs for your listener, guiding them through your ideas effortlessly. They make your speech hang together beautifully and stop it from sounding like just a bunch of disconnected sentences. Let me give you some categories and examples. These are super common, and you'll hear them all the time. When you want to kick off a point or start a new idea, you might say, first off, I'd like to mention Zerinya, or my main point is that. Or perhaps let me explain. Zerinya, or even vi mojem мнении, or я считаю что. When you want to add more information or go deeper into something, you could use phrases like, what's more, Zerinya, on top of that, swing comma, also ... Zerinya, and another thing, Zerinya, component placement or to add to that. To give examples, you'll often hear, for example, Zerinya, to give you an idea. Zerinya, a good example of this is Zerinya, or let me illustrate. When you need to show contrast or perhaps disagree politely, common phrases include having said that, zrение, on the flip side, zrение, while that's true, I think. Zrение, by contrast, zrение. To show cause and effect, you'll often hear, as a result, зрение, это привело к зрение. And finally, to wrap things up or summarize what you've been saying, you can use all in all, зрение, to cut a long story short. Logically, зрение, logically, зрение. Let's try to string some of these together. Imagine you're talking about why exercise is so great. You could say, in my view, regular exercise is absolutely key for feeling good all around. First off, it really boosts your physical health, leading to stronger immunity and way more energy. What's more, it has incredible benefits for your mental health. For instance, it's a powerful stress buster. Having said that, a lot of people struggle to find the time for it. Even so, even a little bit of activity can make a big difference. As a result, I truly believe fitting in some movement every day is essential for everyone. To sum up, the benefits really outweigh the challenges. See how those little words and phrases create such a smooth, logical flow? They make your English sound natural and truly help your listener keep up with what you're saying. Start paying close attention to how native speakers use them, and try to consciously weave them into your own speech. It makes a huge difference. Our fifth and final core technique is all about fine-tuning what you say. It's getting your message across by being concise and clear. Thinking fast and talking smart isn't about rambling on and on. It's truly about speaking effectively. And sometimes, let me tell you, less is definitely more. The goal here is to get your message across with the most impact using the fewest words necessary. This isn't about being super brief to the point of not giving enough information, but about cutting out any unnecessary jargon, repetitive phrases, and sentences that are just too complicated and hard to follow. So, why is being concise so important, you ask? Well, for one, clarity. Simpler language is almost always clearer language. It just makes sense. Secondly, it gives your message more impact. Your main points really stand out when they're not buried under a pile of extra words. Thirdly, it helps with listener engagement. People lose interest when they have to wade through super wordy, drawn-out explanations. And lastly, it truly affects the perception of intelligence. People who speak clearly and concisely are often seen as more intelligent and confident. It just looks good. So here are some practical tips for being more concise and clear. First, cut out redundancy. Look for words that basically say the same thing. For example, instead of past history, which is redundant because history is always past, just say history. Instead of end result, a result is always an end, so just say result. And instead of completely finished, finished implies completion, so just say finished. Secondly, ditch filler phrases. These are phrases that don't really add anything to your meaning. For instance, instead of in my honest opinion, зрение вы можете просто сказать по моему мнению. Или даже лучше, просто выразите свое мнение напрямую. You can often skip phrases like at the end of the day, if it's not truly necessary, and instead of the fact of the matter is. Зрение вы можете просто сказать ситуация, или просто заявить факт напрямую. Thirdly, use strong verbs. Often, one powerful verb can take the place of several weaker words. Instead of she made a decision, just say she decided. Instead of he gave a presentation, simply say he presented. Fourthly, simplify complex sentences. Try to break down really long, winding sentences into shorter, more manageable ones. For example, instead of saying, due to the fact that the weather conditions were extremely unfavorable, the outdoor event had to be postponed until a later date. You could simply say, because of the bad weather, the outdoor event was postponed. Lastly, get to the point quickly. Especially when answering questions, state your main point up front, then flesh it out if you need to. Don't make your listener wait around to hear your core message. This ties back to the PrEP method's point-first approach. Let's run through a few before and afters to really see the difference. Before, it is my belief that it is absolutely essential for individuals to engage in the process of continuous learning and development throughout the entire span of their professional careers. That's 29 words. After, continuous learning is essential throughout one's career. That's only 7 words. Huge difference, right? Same meaning, but way more impact. Or try this one. Before, we need to make sure that we are making an effort to ensure that we are doing everything we can possibly do to enhance the overall customer experience. That's 28 words. After, we need to improve the customer experience. Only 6 words. Practicing conciseness really forces you to get to the core of your thoughts. This not only makes you a clearer speaker, but also, genuinely, a clearer thinker. So there you have it. We've covered 5 powerful techniques. The PrEP method for killer structure, bridging, and pivoting for handling those tricky questions. The power of pausing for sounding thoughtful and calm. Connecting phrases and signposting for that natural flow. And finally, being concise and clear for maximum impact. Now, the big question is, how do you put all of this together and make it second nature? Well, it all comes down to 2 really important things: consistent practice and your mindset. First, let's talk about deliberate practice. I highly recommend role-playing. Practice with a friend, a language partner, or even use those cool AI tools that are out there now. Give each other scenarios and consciously try out these techniques. Another fantastic way to improve is to record yourself. This is honestly one of the best ways to get better. Record yourself answering questions or explaining topics. Then watch it back and be your own critic. Did you use the PrEP method? Did you throw in some connecting phrases? Were there any filler words you could cut out? And overall, did you sound clear and confident? Also, try shadowing and mimicry. Listen to really good English speakers on podcasts, TED Talks, or the news. Pay close attention to their pauses, how they transition between ideas, and how they build their arguments. Then, try to copy their patterns yourself. Secondly, you need to adopt a growth mindset. Don't sweat the small stuff when it comes to mistakes. Don't fear making errors. Every single mistake is actually a chance to learn. If you stumble a bit, just pause, correct yourself if needed, and keep going. It truly shows resilience. Also, focus on getting better, not on being perfect. You're not going to be a master overnight, and that's totally okay. Celebrate the little wins along the way. And importantly, manage that anxiety. It's totally natural to feel nervous when speaking a new language. Practice deep breathing. Remind yourself that you've prepared. And remember that communication is a two-way street. Most listeners are pretty understanding and supportive. Third, make an effort to grow your active vocabulary. While these techniques help with structure and flow, having more words in your toolbox gives you more options and allows for richer expression. Read a lot, listen actively, and really make a conscious effort to learn and use new words in context. The more words you know, the quicker you can pull out the right one when you need it. And finally, stay curious. Engage with new ideas and information. The more you know about different topics, the more you'll have to say, and the more confidently you can bridge and pivot when the moment calls for it. Thinking fast and talking smart in English isn't about being flawless. It's about being effective, clear, and confident. These techniques aren't strict rules. They're more like flexible tools in your communication kit. The more you use them, the more natural and automatic they will become. You'll start to notice a huge difference in how you get your thoughts across, how others take in your message, and most importantly, in your own confidence. So, what are you waiting for? Start today. Pick one technique and really focus on it for a week. Then, as you feel comfortable, add another one. With consistent effort, I promise you, you will absolutely transform your English communication skills. You totally have what it takes to speak clearly, powerfully, and naturally, so believe in yourself and go for it. That's a wrap on today's deep dive into Think Fast, Talk Smart communication techniques. Here on English Active Listening. I really hope you found this comprehensive guide super useful. If you did, please show some love by giving this video a big thumbs up, subscribing to our channel for more practical English tips, and leaving a comment below. I'd love to hear which of these techniques you're most excited to give a go first, or what other communication challenges you'd like us to explore in future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to catch you in the next one.